Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, today I stand before you with a full heart, a heart that beats with the name I carry and with the promise that name brings. The pulse of responsibility, of service, and of hope. To carry that name is to understand that each day I am entrusted with more than a title. I am entrusted with the trust, the aspirations, and the welfare of all those whom I serve. It is with deep humility that I reflect on the path that has led me here, a path shaped by history, by the example of those who came before me, and by the support of so many whose voices strengthen the foundations of our shared future. I understand that the name I bear is not merely a personal mark, but a symbol of continuity, of the values that bind us together, of the duties we share, and of the generations to come who will look to our actions and our decisions. In carrying this name in my pulse, I pledge my unwavering dedication. I pledge to act with integrity, with respect, and with a profound sense of service, because I know that titles alone mean little unless they are anchored in tangible deeds. And I know that the greatest honor lies in uplifting others, in promoting justice, in preserving our heritage, and in shaping a future where dignity and opportunity are within reach of every person. My gratitude to you is immense. To the families, the young people, the citizens from every corner of our country, you are the reason this name matters. You give it meaning, you give it life, and so I ask you, walk with me, trust in this journey, trust in the effort, the perseverance, and the sense of purpose that accompany me here. Every generation inherits a task, a quiet yet solemn duty, to carry forward what others built with devotion, and to strengthen it with purpose. For me, that inheritance is not only a legacy of names and symbols, but a living promise of service, one that must be renewed each day through commitment, understanding, and love for the people to whom I belong. Commitment and service are not abstract ideals. They are the heartbeat of a life that seeks meaning beyond self. They are the rhythm by which I measure every action, every word, and every responsibility entrusted to me. To serve is to listen, truly listen, to the voices that make up the heart of a nation. It means hearing not only the words spoken aloud, but also the silence of those who wait to be understood. Service asks of us patience, empathy, and the willingness to act not for recognition, but for the quiet satisfaction of having done what is right. It is not a path of comfort or ease. It demands sacrifice and sometimes solitude, but it is also the path that gives the deepest joy, for in serving others we discover who we truly are. Commitment, in turn, is the thread that binds duty to purpose. It is the daily choice to rise to one's obligations even when no one is watching, to persist in the face of difficulty, and to keep one's word when circumstances change. I have learned that commitment is not declared in speeches. It is proven in small, consistent gestures, in the way we greet, the way we care, the way we continue even when the road is uncertain. To be committed is to carry a promise within oneself and to live by it, not just when it is celebrated, but also when it is tested. There are moments when commitment and service intersect so closely that they become inseparable. In those moments, one feels the weight of expectation and the warmth of belonging at once. The weight reminds us of the trust placed upon our shoulders. The warmth reminds us why we bear it with pride. It is in that balance that duty transforms into something deeper, into a vocation of the heart. For true service is never forced, it is chosen. And commitment is not endurance without feeling, it is perseverance guided by conviction. In this journey, I have often reflected on what it means to serve in a time of change. Ours is a world that moves quickly, where certainty is fleeting and challenges are complex. Yet even as times evolve, the essence of service remains the same, to seek the common good, to protect what unites us, and to act always with honesty and courage. Commitment today must mean more than formality. It must mean genuine engagement, active listening, and the courage to adapt without losing sight of one's principles. The past teaches us continuity, the present demands responsibility, the future calls for hope. To respond to all three requires a heart steady enough to serve, and a will strong enough to stay committed. Service is not a solitary task. It is built upon the cooperation and confidence of many. It draws strength from families, from teachers, from those who dedicate their lives to the welfare of others. It grows through the silent work of citizens who give their best each day without seeking praise. It flourishes wherever compassion and effort meet. To serve well is to honor them, to recognize that every act of goodness, however small, contributes to the greatness of a nation. When I see their example, I am reminded that leadership is not about standing above others, but standing with them, learning, listening, and sharing in their hopes. Commitment asks for discipline, but also humility. It requires knowing when to act and when to pause, when to lead and when to follow. There is a certain grace in understanding that no one serves alone. Each role is connected to another, each effort part of a larger story. The strength of commitment lies not in perfection, but in perseverance, in beginning again with renewed determination whenever circumstances demand it. In this I find inspiration daily from the people who continue their work despite difficulty, who believe in tomorrow even when today is hard, who embody the quiet dignity of service without recognition. As I move forward, I hold close the belief that service must always be guided by empathy. To understand the challenges others face is to be reminded of our shared humanity. Empathy does not weaken resolve, it strengthens it. It ensures that our decisions are not cold measures of efficiency, but reflections of conscience. Commitment without compassion becomes routine. Service without empathy loses its soul. But when both come together, they form the essence of leadership that is both firm and kind leadership that endures because it uplifts. I am deeply aware that the trust given to me carries with it immense responsibility. It is not a privilege to be taken lightly. Every expectation, every hope placed upon my role becomes a part of my own commitment, one that I must uphold not with words alone, but through steadfast action. I know that each gesture of service, no matter how small, shapes the bond between those who serve and those who are served. And it is in strengthening that bond that we build continuity, stability, and mutual respect. When I think of commitment and service, I also think of gratitude for those who have guided me, for the values that have shaped me, and for the people who believe in the same purpose. Gratitude gives depth to duty. It transforms responsibility into devotion. It reminds me that service is not a burden, but an honor, not an obligation, but an opportunity to make a difference. To serve with gratitude is to recognize that everything we do for others enriches our own spirit. In the years to come, my path will continue to be defined by this commitment, a steady promise to listen, to learn, and to lead with humility. Service will remain at the center of everything I do, because it is not simply an expectation, it is my calling, my measure of purpose, my way of giving back to a nation that has given me so much. I carry this understanding with quiet pride, knowing that every heartbeat echoes a shared duty to serve with integrity, to act with honor, and to remain faithful to the values that unite us all. And so, as I stand on the threshold of what lies ahead, I remind myself that commitment is not the end of a journey, it is its constant beginning. Each day is a new chance to serve better, to understand more deeply, and to build upon what we cherish most. The meaning of service lies not in grand gestures, but in the constancy of care. It lives in every person who chooses to give more than they take, to heal rather than divide, to believe in something greater than themselves. This is the path I have chosen, one of quiet strength and enduring purpose, a path guided by the conviction that to serve is to belong, and to remain committed is to keep faith with the future. And as long as my heart beats, that commitment will remain a steady rhythm, echoing the promise of service that defines who we are and who we strive to be. There are moments in life when the weight of history and the call of the future seem to meet within one's own heart. To live in such a moment is to understand that our existence is not only our own, it belongs also to those who came before us and to those who will follow. In that understanding, I find the essence of personal dedication and continuity. It is not a fixed inheritance, nor a static tradition. It is a living thread, woven through time, strengthened by purpose, and carried forward by will. It is the quiet determination to carry on what is good, to improve what can be made better, and to give meaning to the legacy we have been entrusted with. Personal dedication is not built in a single day. It grows through learning, through perseverance, and through reflection. It comes from knowing that every effort, however small, contributes to something larger, to the story of a nation, to the well-being of a people, to the dignity of a shared identity. I have learned that dedication requires more than intent. It requires constancy. It is the choice to remain faithful to one's principles, even when the path ahead is uncertain. It is the quiet strength to continue doing what is right, even when recognition does not follow. It is an act of service to time itself, ensuring that what we inherit does not fade, but evolves with purpose. Continuity gives meaning to that dedication. It reminds us that we are not isolated, but part of a greater narrative. Every generation has its duty not to replicate the past, but to honor it by renewing its spirit. Continuity is not imitation, it is preservation through progress. It is understanding that tradition breathes, that it adapts without losing its essence. It asks us to take what is valuable and keep it alive in ways that speak to the present. In that process, we learn to balance reverence with renewal, to remember where we come from, while having the courage to move forward with conviction. There are times when the responsibility of continuity feels immense. It asks us to represent not only ourselves, but all that our heritage stands for: values, memories, sacrifices, and hopes. But within that responsibility lies the greatest honor, to be a bridge between what was and what will be. To stand between generations is to carry both gratitude and aspiration. It is to look to the past with respect and to the future with determination. The continuity of a nation, a culture, or a family rests not on words alone, but on the actions of those who dedicate themselves to its care. That, I believe, is where personal dedication becomes a living legacy. In this path of continuity, I often find strength in the examples that surround me, in the lives of those who have dedicated themselves quietly to their work, who serve without acclaim, who pass on lessons not through speeches but through deeds. Their constancy teaches me that dedication does not demand grand gestures. It is present in perseverance, in humility, in the steady rhythm of effort. It is found in those who build, who protect, who nurture, who create space for others to thrive. They are the true guardians of continuity, the silent custodians of values that time cannot erase. There is also a deeply personal side to continuity. It lives within one's own sense of purpose, in the way one chooses to uphold integrity, kindness, and respect in every act. Personal dedication means aligning one's life with what is enduring. It means understanding that one's choices echo beyond oneself. It is to live in awareness that what we do today shapes the memory of tomorrow. For me, that awareness brings both humility and motivation. It reminds me that to serve faithfully, one must also grow continually, to listen, to learn, to adapt. Continuity without growth becomes repetition. Growth without continuity becomes loss. The harmony of both is what sustains meaning through time. In moments of reflection, I often think about what it means to belong to something larger, to carry a part of history while walking toward the unknown. It is a delicate balance, one that requires grace and courage. To remain dedicated is to accept the challenge of change without letting go of identity. Continuity, then, becomes a living dialogue between the past and the future, spoken through the language of action. It is a reminder that each generation must write its own chapter, yet do so with ink drawn from the same well of shared values: dignity, duty, compassion, and unity. Personal dedication also asks for resilience. The road of service is not always smooth. It is shaped by moments of uncertainty and by decisions that test our resolve. Yet it is in those very moments that continuity proves its strength. To persevere when times are hard is to honor those who endured before us. To rebuild when faced with challenge is to contribute to the ongoing story of hope. Every test, every triumph, every lesson learned becomes a part of the chain that connects us across time. In that connection lies a quiet comfort. We are never truly alone in our effort. The past supports us. The future depends on us. Continuity is not an obligation imposed from outside. It is a responsibility embraced from within. It asks us to care deeply, to act responsibly, and to remember that what we hold today once belonged to others, and will one day belong to those who come after us. Personal dedication gives that continuity its spirit. It transforms duty into devotion. It turns obligation into meaning. It ensures that what is passed on is not just structure or symbol, but purpose, a sense of belonging that can withstand time and change alike. I believe that true continuity is sustained not by walls or words, but by hearts, by those who choose to believe in shared ideals and uphold them through action. It is renewed each time someone stands for what is right, defends what is just, or gives of themselves for the greater good. It is strengthened by unity, by trust, by the faith that we are all part of the same story. In that sense, continuity is not a burden we carry alone. It is a bond that holds us together. As I look ahead, I carry within me the awareness that every step taken with sincerity becomes part of that bond. Personal dedication gives shape to my journey. Continuity gives it direction. Both remind me that life gains its truest meaning when it is lived for something beyond oneself, for the people we serve, for the ideals we cherish, for the generations who will inherit what we leave behind. This is not a promise of perfection, but of perseverance. It is a vow to keep faith with those who trust in our effort, and to keep alive the values that define who we are. So, I move forward with quiet determination, guided by what has been taught to me, and inspired by what I still hope to learn. I know that dedication will demand constancy, and continuity will require vision, but I also know that both will give purpose to every moment. To dedicate oneself is to begin again each day with resolve. To preserve continuity is to ensure that what we begin today endures tomorrow. Together, they form the rhythm of service, the melody of hope, and the echo of belonging that time cannot silence. In that rhythm, I find meaning. In that melody, I find strength. And in that echo, I hear the promise that as long as we remain dedicated, as long as we believe in continuity not as duty alone, but as devotion, the story will go on, steady and strong, written by many hands, bound by the same enduring purpose, to serve, to honor, and to continue. Gratitude is not simply the act of saying thank you. It is a way of seeing the world, of recognizing the invisible threads that bind lives, and of acknowledging how deeply we depend on one another. It is a quiet strength, one that humbles the heart and deepens understanding. To live with gratitude is to live with awareness, to see every gesture, every effort, every shared moment as part of something greater than oneself. It is through gratitude that we learn to value the journey, not just its destination, and through it we find the courage to invite others to trust in the path we walk together. Each day brings with it reminders of how much I owe to others, to those who have guided, taught, and believed in me, to those whose silent dedication sustains the world around us. Gratitude begins with this recognition that no one stands alone. Behind every achievement there are hands unseen and voices unheard that have supported, inspired, and strengthened us. When I reflect on this, I feel not pride, but humility. For every step forward I take, I do so on foundations built by many. To acknowledge that truth is not a sign of weakness, but of grace, a grace that allows one to serve with sincerity and to lead with heart. Trust, like gratitude, is not given lightly. It is earned over time through honesty, through constancy, and through the willingness to keep one's word even when it is difficult. It cannot be demanded, it must be invited, and that invitation begins with openness, with the courage to be transparent, to share not only one's strengths, but also one's imperfections. People do not place their trust in perfection, they place it in authenticity. To ask others to trust is to say, walk with me, see my effort, know that I am trying. That is the most human kind of invitation, one rooted not in authority, but in shared purpose. Gratitude teaches humility, humility nurtures trust. Together, they form the foundation of any lasting bond between those who serve and those they serve. To be trusted is one of the greatest honors one can receive, and one of the heaviest responsibilities to carry. It means that others see in you a reflection of their hopes, their faith, their belief in the future. It means that they have placed a part of their own story in your care. I hold that knowledge close, not as a burden, but as a promise, a reminder that my role is not to stand apart, but to stand with. Trust grows where gratitude dwells. It blooms where respect is mutual and intentions are clear. There are times when gratitude feels almost overwhelming, when words fall short of what the heart feels. It is in those moments that silence itself becomes an expression of thanks. Gratitude is not always spoken, it is lived. It is seen in the way we listen, in the way we treat others, in the consistency of our actions. It asks us to see goodness even in challenge, to find meaning in duty, and to recognize beauty in perseverance. It turns obligation into honor and effort into purpose. Every act of service, every gesture of understanding, every small kindness is, in truth, an offering of gratitude, a way of saying, I see you, I value you, I am thankful.